John Lasseter had one of the largest falls from grace of all time. Previously having worked for both Disney and Pixar, he was well known and often called the latter-day Walt Disney. So what happened? But first, we're going to look at his career. Born January 12, 1957 in Los Angeles, his mother was an art teacher and his father was a manager of a Chevrolet. When he was young, he went and saw Disney's The Sword in the Stone and quickly realized he wanted to be an animator. So upon graduating from high school, he immediately enrolled in Cal Arts and became the second student ever of their new character design program. This was created by two former Disney animators, Jack Hanna and T. Hee. Upon graduating, he was immediately offered a position at Disney where he impressed them with his short film, The Lady and the Lamp, because the man really enjoys animating lamps. And he was one of 150 that were selected out of 10,000 applicants at the time. While working at Disney, he started on a project called The Emperor and the Nightingale, which is based on Hans Christian Andersen's The Nightingale, something that Walt Disney himself had previously tried to make into a movie. The film did end up being scrapped, but while he was there in 1980, he came across some tapes from the new movie Tron, and he was inspired. He thought, wow, this is it. We need to start doing 3D animation. Once again, something Walt Disney himself had a dream of doing, adding dimension to film. John Lasseter had also felt that recently Disney had been meandering, that they weren't reaching the heights they used to and they needed a boost. And so he started working wholeheartedly on trying to figure out a way to make a computer-generated film, or specifically computer-generated backgrounds that would merge with 2D animation. He tried to pitch the idea for a Brave Little Toaster movie, which he thought would be a good idea, but they decided to do a test animation first of Where the Wild Things Are, another film that Disney always wanted to make. But what he didn't know by doing this and being so enthusiastic about 3D animation, that he was stepping on some of his direct supervisor's toes. Because of this, Lasseter was fired from Disney, and he was allowed to go ahead and complete his Where the Wild Things Are test, but that was it, and he was told he had to leave. He had previously made friends with Ed Catmull, who was working at what would become Pixar at the time, and told him how he had been fired from Disney and that the Brave Little Toaster project was canceled. Catmull immediately called his colleague Alvy Smith, who was also working at what would become Pixar, and Smith told him, "You need to hire Lasseter right now." Lasseter immediately agreed and was given the title of interface designer because Catmull wasn't allowed to hire an animator at the time. What that title entailed, nobody really knew, but they said that nobody questioned it, and so it was okay. Lasseter ended up making a short film that was completely 3D animated called The Adventures of Andre and Wally B. It was revolutionary at the time, and Lasseter continued to work at what would become Pixar with a little team that would eventually go on to make Toy Story. And he was a big deal at Pixar. He was very, very instrumental in the creation of Toy Story, as well as some of their biggest movies, directing, writing stories, producing, supervising, all of it. And he continued to be on the rise up until Disney bought Pixar in 2006, which put him even further upwards, with Disney giving him complete creative control over both Disney Animation Studios and Pixar. Not to mention, he was also very good friends with Hayao Miyazaki and had been friends with him since the 80s, even before either of them had really gotten famous. Because of this, Disney gave him producer control of all dubs and production for all of the Studio Ghibli films at the time, which is also why the character Totoro makes a brief appearance in Toy Story 3. But then everything went wrong in November of 2017. Accusations came out against Lasseter for inappropriate touching, grabbing, and unwanted advances on female and male employees. Around this time, it became known that Pixar had minders to keep Lasseter in check so that he would not do these behaviors. And women around the Pixar office in particular knew to avoid him, not to wear skirts, and they would even turn away to avoid his kisses that he would give. He was also severely punished for making out with a subordinate during a 2010 Oscar party. Around this time, Toy Story 4 had been greenlit and they had hired writers, specifically Rashida Jones. But Rashida Jones ended up leaving the project after saying that Lasseter had made unwanted advances on her as well. She also went on to say that she felt Pixar was no place for women or people of color to have a safe voice. He was also known for being a very prolific drinker at parties, though it wasn't always contained to just parties. Employees at Pixar had even dubbed a move called the Lasseter, known for helping them to avoid him touching their legs. After all these allegations came out, Disney had a Day of Listening event, a first ever for the company. And during this event, it came out that Laurie McAdams, one of the chief HR officers at Disney at the time, and was often seen as one of Lasseter's biggest protectors, was leaving the company. This resulted in Lasseter going on a 6-month sabbatical that was in fact paid, where he then apologized for all of his missteps and said that he would not do them again. But this was not enough, and in 2018, Lasseter officially separated from the company. Some say he resigned, some say he was fired. It is not really known. However, many people say that both Disney and Pixar were very well aware of Lasseter's behavior and often said that we need to keep the public from finding out and we have to keep everyone else from finding out because he was seen as their golden ticket. After leaving Disney in 2019, he was then hired on to Skydance Animation. Skydance claims that they conducted a thorough investigation before hiring Lasseter, saying that they found no evidence of any sort of settlement. He was then given control over all their creative team and all their media going forward, with the first of which coming out this week called Swapped. And going forward, he's going to have several more that he has brought on several other Disney and Pixar animators to do, such as Ray Gunn and a new Jack and the Beanstalk film. Despite all of the allegations and evidence, his wife Nancy has never left him, and they remain married and continue living in their vineyard in California. Recently, there have also been some claims that Lasseter may have actually stolen a lot of his ideas and the credit for his ideas from people, particularly that of the Cars films, which supposedly came from another animator, which is going to get its own video. But regardless, his impact on Disney and Pixar for the last 2 decades cannot be understated, and it is such a shame that he had to go and mar what would have been a perfect legacy.